Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the D-Shift podcast. And we are going to talk about something that's a sensitive topic. I'm not going to gloss it over. It is. We're going to talk about addiction and how addiction plays into the challenges of divorce, co-parenting, and maybe some of the feelings of, should I continue to support my ex if they are the one that has the addiction issue, or should I just cut ties and, parallel parent, or if there's no kids involved, have no contact with my ex at all? And those are really personal questions, but there's also a strategic point in this where those kind of decisions are necessary. So I have a true expert to talk to us today. Amber Hollingsworth is a counselor, a master addiction counselor. She's also the founder of Hope for Families Recovery Center, which has a really unique approach to supporting people in addiction, but also in recovery from addiction, but also in how to support the families. Amber also has her own YouTube channel called Put the Shovel Down, and I'm going to ask her a little bit about that. And she has literally helped thousands of families to navigate the whole challenge of addiction recovery using relationship strategies such as invisible intentions. Did I get that right? Is that the
invisible intervention? Yeah.
Invisible interventions. I'm sorry. I can't even read my own handwriting on my notes here. Once it was out of my mouth, I knew it wasn't right. So Amber, welcome to the show. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yeah, if I can get my words out right, it'll be a really good interview here. Amber, before we get into this really important and very relevant topic of dealing with an addicted partner or a partner maybe who's relapsed after years and years of recovery, can you tell us a little bit about why this became your area of focus and how you actually kind of broke away from sort of the more traditional addiction recovery model to create this amazing recovery center you've set up?
Sure. Well, most people that do what I do landed here on purpose for this giant heart reason. And I kind of got here by accident, honestly. I'm not in recovery. That's usually the first question people want to know. And I used to be really embarrassed about that because, especially with dealing with people who have addictions, they would sort of immediately disqualify you. But I do come from an addicted family, like very addicted grandparents, siblings, parents, aunts, uncles, cousins. It was everywhere, like hardcore addiction. And I wish I could say, I came from this addicted family and I was just so inspired and I came into the field. But the truth of it is, Marty, is that I didn't realize it until I was in the field. And I know that's crazy, but when you live it every day, you just don't even know. Like, not that I didn't know that people were using substances. I knew that, but I just wouldn't have put the label on it as addiction. Like, you just think you don't think anything about it, right, to be honest.
Right.
And so once I was in the field and looking back, and then you're like, oh, holy moly, like, that's not the way that's supposed to work,
Yeah. It's interesting because we were talking before we started recording here, and I was sharing that there wasn't addiction in my direct family, but my grandfather, who lived with us, was a very severe alcoholic. I don't know if that's the right term. Significant alcoholic. Drank every day, and if he couldn't get alcohol, he would drink aftershave, and there was many things that happened in our house that were very strange. And I remember bringing home my friends from school, and he would be so drunk he couldn't walk and he was crawling on the floor, and I didn't, it was just a normal thing. Oh, that's just what he does. And so I do understand that. And I think a lot of people, you make so many excuses when there's addiction and things, or you rationalize it or you normalize it, and then all of a sudden when you get out of that environment, you realize what's really going on.
Right, because humans have a remarkable capacity to adjust, and we can normalize anything when you're in any situation. And to a large degree, that's really good for our survival. But when it comes to addiction, it can kind of go against us.
Sure. So let's start out and let's talk about let's talk about the whole idea of the impact of addiction on families, because I hear from my clients that is quite often the breaking point for the marriage collapsing or failing, because they have supported their addicted partner through multiple recoveries or multiple attempted recovery interventions and things and all the processes, and then it's like it's a never ending cycle, and then finally at some point they just sort of hit that wall and say no more. I can't do it anymore. Can you share a little bit about how you see the impact of addiction on families?
Yeah, and for your audience, I want to focus specifically on partners and spouses about how it impacts you as a partner or spouse. I think first and foremost, you find yourself in this situation and you're thinking, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't get informed consent. How did we get here? And it's so frustrating to be the partner of someone who has an addiction, because what ends up happening is you end up taking on way more than your fair share of the responsibilities, and that's exhausting. But it's not just that. It's that you're doing all that and you're trying to help them, and your thank you for that is to be seen as the villain. So even though you feel like you're trying, you're picking up all the pieces, you're fixing all the problems, you're still the bad guy. And that is so emotionally destroying, And, you mentioned, spouses supporting their person through multiple recoveries. And that's exhausting because it takes people more than once, more than twice usually. And it just wears you down. And eventually it just changes who you are as a person. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I don't even recognize myself. Right. Because it will make you crazy. It is crazy. You cannot live with it and it not make you crazy, especially as a spouse. It will.
Yeah. And thank you for just acknowledging that, because I think there's a lot of people out there that do feel like they're the bad guy, and that, when they do make the decision to leave, it's like they're not necessarily their family, but quite often their spouse's family turns on them and says, you're not being supportive. You're part of the problem. We hear that all the time, right? Or people hear that all the time. I did want to ask you a little bit about, do you ever find situations where maybe people married and they were the party people and they were both very, drinking a lot, maybe using other substances, and they did it together, and it kind of is how they got started in their relationship. Then one person gets sober and then the crisis hits. Do you see that as a common dynamic? Or?
Yeah, the way I see it most is like, let's say, when people are dating and they're drinking and they're going out and they're having fun, or maybe they met in college or something like that. And then one person grows out of it more than I would say gets sober, but maybe just sort of, that's okay. And it works in the dating realm. But when you're raising kids together, it stops working. And so you get frustrated because your partner hasn't changed, and your partner gets frustrated with you because you have changed, and you're both mad at each other. But in one stage of life, it's seen as completely normal, and it might be fine, but it doesn't work in these other stages of life, and that's where this rub comes in.
Yeah. And let's, if you don't mind, because a lot of this is going to be women listening on the call to our talk. Do you see anything specific with the challenges of like the supportive partner, I'll just say, or I don't know what's the correct term, the non-addicted partner, trying to be the breadwinner, the excuse maker, the managing the household, typically doing 90% of the parenting, maybe more of the parenting for the kids, and also then trying to parent their partner or trying to support their partner through addiction. How do you deal with that? Like, I know you help families, and that's why I think this is such a unique approach. How does that work in kind of in the real world for somebody that's listening in? How does all that fit in?
Well, when you said supporting and then you said parenting, I thought, no, parenting, that's the right word, because you end up in a dynamic with your partner where you feel like you're the parent and you're both resentful about it. You're resentful for having to be the parent because you don't want to be the parent of them. And they're resentful because they feel like you're treating them like a child or you're parenting them. You're both just really angry at each other, and you both distrust each other, and you go further apart. And, as far as being the non-addicted spouse, you mentioned feeling guilty, like the family makes you feel guilty. And that's it, is you're in this rock and hard place, and it's guilt or guilt. You feel guilty if you stay because you feel like, am I doing the wrong thing for my kids by keeping them in a house with someone who has an addiction? You feel guilty if you go. Am I doing the wrong thing for my kids if I leave and then I'm taking their parent away? You feel guilty no matter what you do. And you feel resentful. I call it guilt-zentment. It's this constant guilt-zentment thing, constantly just rolling around in there.
I love new words, and that's going to be one of my favorites now. I love that. What are some signs, Amber, that maybe, and I know you never tell people what to do. Well, I shouldn't say that. I believe you don't tell people what to do, but what are some signs where people just really need to think that, or really need to seriously consider getting away from somebody who's addicted? Sort of those red flags that are like, this is an unsafe place for you or your kids to be.
That's the key word, is unsafe place. And so if you're living in a situation that's abusive, it's not safe physically, emotionally, and I include, depends on the kind of addiction, but like if you feel like you are sleeping with your wallet under your pillow and you're locking your purse up in your trunk every night because every time you turn your head, something's being stolen, I consider that abuse, because you would never let someone else that was stealing you blind live with you. So right. I put that in that category. So I want people to know that. That's one reason. And I'm not even saying you have to divorce, but you need to get some distance, because you're not helping yourself or them when it's gotten to that point. Right. So that's one. Also, another one is when you find that you have turned into a crazy lunatic and you cannot bring it back in, and you're like, I hate this person that I've become. I've become the cop. I've become the bad person. I'm like chasing, I'm yelling, I'm mad, I'm nasty. I don't enjoy anything anymore. And you've tried to pull that back on the rails and you just can't. That's also a good reason, right? Yeah. Because it's like you've lost yourself and it's not getting better. It's getting worse. Because when you have that front row seat, that's what I call it, when you're living with it and you're seeing every piece of it, every bad decision, every mistake, and being on that roller coaster, it does change you.
Right. Yeah, it really does. It really does. So tell us now a little bit, because I think we all have a sort of a picture of what this looks like and some of the challenges. Let's talk a little bit about what about this whole idea of self-care and resilience. And obviously we're talking from the side of the non-addicted spouse. And Amber, we may have you come back and talk about how people, if they find themselves being addicted, could start dealing with some of these issues. But let's say as a non-addicted spouse, how do you deal with self-care and resilience when, like you say, you've got a front row seat and you're living kind of in the horror show every day?
I think it helps to understand and conceptualize that when you live with an addict, you become an addict too. They chase the drug and you chase them, and you become obsessive, and it takes over everything. Like you feel like you can't leave the house because you got to be there babysitting, or if they're not there, you got to be there because that's when you got to do the snooping and you're collecting evidence and you're trying to find the truth, or you feel like you can't leave the house, because your kids are there. So your whole mental everything gets wound up in this problem with this person, trying to fix it, trying to catch it, trying to decide, do I stay or do I go? What boundaries do I set? And get in that rabbit hole, and it's so unhealthy, and there's nothing good in there. It's a dark place. It's like a vortex, and it sucks you in. The most important thing you do is give yourself breaks from that. Like, you don't need to be thinking about this all the time. Even people that follow my content, listen to me, I'm like, I love that you watch my videos, but I don't, they'll say, I go to sleep to your videos. I watch them. I listen to them all day at work. I'm like, give yourself a break. Like, I love that you're listening to me. I appreciate that. And the algorithm appreciates that, but it's not healthy for you to be obsessed about it all the time. So literally decide, I am not going to think about this all the time. And one way to do that is just to give yourself like a time where you let yourself think about it. Like, I won't worry about this between 5 and 5:30. That's my window. And other than that, when I find myself wanting to go in that rabbit hole, I'm going to distract out of it because it's not healthy. It's not making it better. It's not helping me figure this problem out. It's making me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. What a helpful tip. And I hear people saying, "Oh yeah, that's easy for her to say," or and that, but I have to deal with this all day. And I think I love that explanation that you become addicted to their addiction problem, because I think we really do. Yeah, that's something really, really significant to think about.
Yeah, because when it's your spouse, they're not just destroying their life; they're destroying the whole family's life. So it's natural to become obsessed about that problem. It's a very valid place to be. It's just not helpful. And I'm not saying don't think about it at all. I'm just saying don't let it take over because it will. And thinking about it more doesn't bring you closer to solving it. It breeds more guilt resentment.
Yeah. There's that great word again. Amber, what about if kids are in the house, in the home, in the family, and let's put this out there that, there's no physical abuse going on, that, that the children are not in physical danger, but that doesn't mean that it's an emotionally safe environment for them if there's an addict in the house. So how do you coach or support or advise people who have that concern? And let's, we can look at it by preteens and teens, if you want to break it into the two groups, whatever you want to do with that.
Sure. Well, even if the child doesn't even know that it's happening, like maybe it's a secret, they don't even know, either because they're so young or because it's hidden. Some addictions are easier to hide. It's still impacting. And if no other reason, because you as the spouse are so unhappy and your children feel your energy and they pick up on your energy, it's affecting them. You feel what the people around you feel. You can't help it. Like if you're around depressed people all day, how do you feel? You feel depressed. And so they feel that energy and that conflict between the two. So that's just the bare minimum that it is affecting. When it comes to what do you tell them, that's tricky, because what ends up happening to the spouse, and it's like no matter what you do, you're the bad guy, and it's so frustrating. And I get it. It's like if the kids see it and they're frustrated with the addicted parent, and they're like either avoiding them or yelling at them or trying to parent them, that happens a lot, then that addicted parent doesn't realize it's because their behavior is affecting their kids in a way their kids are responding to it. What they think is, you turned my kids against me.
Right.
They always
yes
blame it on you, and you're filling their head full of all this junk. And sometimes that happens, but kids, they pick up on it too.
Yeah.
And sometimes the kids are mad at the non-addicted parent because they feel like, oh, you're being mean to dad. You're being mean to mom. That's not fair, because maybe the addicted one is the cool one and they let you get by with everything. So it can go either way. And the kids feel like they're having to pick so often, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult. So you don't want to be the one turning your kid against their parent.
Yeah.
They will see the truth for themselves. And it's better if they see the truth for themselves. And if you try to get them to see it, it's more likely that they'll resist seeing it because they feel stuck and maybe they're not ready for whatever reason. Yeah. So you don't want, it's delicate balance, because you don't want to be telling them all the behind the scenes stuff. And you don't want to be talking to your kid about the conflict you're having, because it's too much for them to handle, even if they seem really mature. You're putting them in a parentified position, and because you're not getting your needs met with your spouse, it's very easy if you have an older kid, like a teen or something, to start letting them be your confidant. Do not do that. It's harmful to your child. And if you've already done it, it's okay. It happens, but you may have already set it up where they're coming, and then now they're asking you about it. So you may have to sort of back out of it if it's already started. So don't put that on them. Let them discover it for themselves, but also don't tell them it's not happening. Like dad or mom is acting crazy at the dinner table, and you're like, well, he loves you, he didn't mean it, because then you're gaslighting your kid, because you're telling them that even though this crazy thing happens, it's obviously not cool, or weird or whatever, like grandpa on the floor or whatever, like you don't want to gaslight your kid either.
Right.
So you can just say, how did you feel about whatever the interaction was, rather than trying to put a label on it or trying to convince them any one way or the other.
Yeah.
And kids will respond to it in every different kind of way.
And unfortunately, we're almost out of time. I wish these conversations could go a lot longer, but unfortunately, they kind of, the longer they go, the more information we get out, but then sometimes we lose listeners. So we got to try to keep them kind of short here.
Yeah.
Amber, tell us about the Hope for Families Recovery Center. That's a very different model. So can you just share a little bit about that? Because that is the organization that you founded, right?
Right. Well, historically, it was a counseling treatment center for addictions, but we would see the whole family. Now, we don't see you all in the same room because that doesn't go well. Because if we see you all in the same room, what happens is either no one wants to argue in front of the counselor and then you leave feeling like, well, that's not helpful. Or you do argue in front of the counselor and you leave feeling mad and you think, well, this is making it worse. So we give the family member a counselor and the addicted person a counselor. We call it like an advocate, like a lawyer. You get a lawyer and you get a lawyer. And then behind the scenes, the two lawyers negotiate a lot of it out. And, myself and the family counselors will be like, well, could you get your person to stop doing this? And I'll say, well, you can stop doing that if y'all could stop doing this. Kind of like lawyers, like a lot of times it's mediated behind the scenes.
Right.
And our goal is to bring families, in the same direction. Our goal is not to separate you like divorce lawyers, but it gives you space to feel like you have an advocate and you have somebody that understands your point of view and you can say what you want to say without worried you're going to start a fight, or, it gives you the safety and the space to do that. Yeah. These days, since the YouTube channel, we do a lot more coaching and consulting instead of like the longer term therapy like that. A lot of what we teach is how to get through to an addicted loved one that's in denial, and particularly like a functional addict or an alcoholic. Maybe they're still working or something like that, and so they think it's not a problem. We do a lot of coaching on how to deal with that.
That is wonderful. And you're right. Like a lot of functional addicts and functional alcoholics, I was amazed to learn a couple of my colleagues were drug addicted. And I had no clue because they presented very well.
And they will present well at work for a long time. The partner is usually the first one to know it. And that's part of the maddening. Because no one believes you because you're the only one that sees it and everyone else thinks this person's great. Yeah. And you're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's kind of like dealing with a narcissist in that way, right? Everybody sees one side and then you see the more difficult side to deal with.
Right. So yeah.
Amber, you have kindly provided a gift for everybody listening in today. Can you just tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a boundaries guide. So if you have an addictive partner or soon to be ex-partner or ex-partner, it's about understanding boundaries, and it takes you through a lot of different scenarios on how to interact with this and that and how to set healthy boundaries for yourself. So you can go, you got the link and they can go and just download it. It's completely free, and that it's a really good starting place.
Yeah, I was going to say, what a great resource for people that are just getting started. Or if you've been through this a bunch of times and you're still going, I don't know what to do, setting those boundaries is always a really good first step. Out of everything you've talked about, and we've covered a lot of information in 20 minutes, what do you think is the most important takeaway or kind of nugget that you would like to leave people with?
It's okay to take care of yourself. Your needs do matter too. And it's okay to take some of your life back.
What a great message, because you're right. A lot of times people do feel like all of the focus and all of the support goes to the addicted partner and not much comes back to the non-addicted partner. So I really do appreciate you, Amber, for taking all this time. But if people want to find out more about what you do, what's the best way to get a hold of you or to find out more?
You can always go to our website, but I feel like the best place to start is on YouTube because there's more than 1,000 videos there. It's totally free. Like you can get a long way with just that information. Right. There may even be all you need. And
so I think YouTube. What's your channel again?
It's called Put the Shovel Down. And I know that's a funny kind of name for a channel, but it's a recovery saying, and it means you hit your bottom when you put your shovel down. As in, you don't have to keep going. You don't have to burn every bridge. You don't have to lose everything. You can just set your shovel down and quit digging into that hole.
What a great title. And I had heard that term before in addiction stuff. So that's a great, very creative, and wonderful resource, because YouTube videos are easy. You can watch them, you can listen to them. Yeah. Great resource. Amber, thank you so much for being here today and sharing everything. And we're definitely going to have you come back and talk about if you are concerned about addiction in your own self, maybe some strategies for how to start the process of getting help. And
right, like maybe you're being accused of having a problem and your partner's divorcing you, and you're like, they're trying to take my kids away. Or
right.
Yeah,
right.
We can definitely talk from that perspective.
That would be great. So if you like this one, keep listening, because we're going to have Amber come back and talk about this. So thank you, Amber, and thank you all for listening in to this episode of The D-Shift. And don't forget to tune in to our next episode. Thanks for listening and supporting the D-Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D-Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.